Madhu can't join today. He's traveling. So I needed to make sure that I press the record button, which I did. So we will start.
Yeah.
So welcome again to lecture 16 of the series. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
I'll say a Shanti mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om
Om
Shanti
Shanti
Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.
May we all be protected and nourished with knowledge. May we make effort for the capacity for knowledge to take place. May what we studied it becomes brilliantly clear. Let us not have any misunderstanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. So today I will just continue with the stories that I began in the last session. I have quite a few slides to go through, so I'll make sure, I might have to go a little bit faster in some certain cases, but we'll proceed on that. So one thing I think Vaniraji brought up was about today being the winter solstice day. So there are two measures of winter solstice, I suppose, or Uttarayana, as it is known in Indian astronomy. And one is the Sayana Uttarayana, which is today, and it refers to the astronomical winter solstice, and it marks basically the exact moment that the sun reaches the southernmost point and begins its northern journey. So Sayana is basically Sa Ayana. So Sa is with, and Ayana is movement, or in this case is precision, where we've talked about precision earlier. And it basically is the Sayana Uttarana, which is referring to the northern journey of the sun with precision. Now, there is another Uttarayana, which is the Nirayana Uttarayana. Nirayana is basically without precision, without movement. And in traditional practice, people celebrate this Nirayana Uttarayana on Makar Sankranti. That is the time. Makar Sankranti is essentially, of course, the time the sun enters the Makar Rashi, or the Capricorn zodiac sign, and that is usually around the 14th or 15th of January. And so that is celebrated as Uttarayana, but it is the Nirayana that does not take precision into account. And these two dates, the actual winter solstice and the Makar Sankranti, coincided about 1700 years ago. So they have roughly separated by about 24 days, and that is primarily due to the precession of the Earth. So that is why there is the Sayana Uttarayana and Nirayana Uttarayana. So the actual Uttarayana should be starting soon in terms of IST 8:30 8:33 p.m. Or soon in on the east coast of the U.S. and interestingly, if you look at the chart, moon is around the Uttara Ashad, and sun is in the Moola nakshatra. So
Uttarashada.
Uttarashada. This is the moon, and the sun is at the moon nakshatra. So sun is entering Sagittarius, and moon is at a different pace. And because the moon's position varies, the sun's nakshatra remains relatively stable. And so, therefore, winter solstice always occurs around the Moola nakshatra in our lifetime, in the current era, in the December solstice or in the winter solstice. Now, of course, with recession over the next 100, 200, 300 years, things will change. However, at this point of time, sun is going to be in the Moola nakshatra during winter solstice. Okay, so last time we had this question where we looked at a Hollywood movie called Interstellar. And now just going a little bit into the story of Interstellar, and uh, we will understand the reason for going into the story a little bit later. But essentially, what happens in the movie is that there is a huge dust storm brought about by environmental factors. So it's almost like a huge drought that is caused by environmental factors and by dust storms and whatnot, and that is actually threatening humanity with extinction. So then what happens is Cooper, the astronaut, knows, or NASA knows about the fact that there is a wormhole near Saturn, and the astronaut travels to the wormhole to find a new home for humanity. And they encounter this wormhole, go into this black hole, and in that whole incident, they experience gravitational time dilation. So they actually spend time on this planet, the Miller's planet, and they spend about 3 hours on this Miller planet, and that equates to a lot of time left in the orbit of the people and back on Earth. So that now the interesting part of the movie is that after he comes, so he leaves Earth when his daughter is young, and he returns to Earth hardly aged, but his daughter has become an old woman. So that is the whole concept of time dilation that is explained in this movie. Now, then we'll come to how this similar concept was talked about in the in the Bhagavad Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam, so many thousands of years ago. And the story is the Kakudmi Revati story. So Kakudmi was a king of Kushasthali. He had a daughter, Revati. The daughter was exceptionally beautiful, talented, but the problem he had was he could not find a suitable groom. for Revati. He looked around, he made, he kept on looking, he made a list of people, but he just could not find the right person for her. And he could not make up his mind on which of the grooms that he listed would actually qualify to be his son-in-law or to be Revati's husband. So, because he had this question in mind, and he could not make a decision, he wanted some guidance, and he said, "Okay, let me ask Brahma himself." And he traveled with Revati to Brahmaloka. Now, as soon as they arrived in Brahmaloka, he found that Brahma himself was engrossed in a musical concert by the celestial musical musicians, Gandharvas, and therefore he waited patiently for that concert to get over. So when the concert was actually over, he approached Brahma, and he he gave him his list and said, "Okay, Brahma, please help me. I cannot make up my mind of all these people that I've made a list." Brahma smiled, and he actually said, "You have waited the time for this concert to get over, and in that time, 27 Chaturyugas had passed on earth." Now, if you equate 27 Chaturyugas to what Srimad Bhagavatam calls as 4.32 million years of one Chaturyuga, that means 116 million years had passed. So he said, everybody on the list and the descendants and their next and generations were long gone, and the entire humanity on earth has changed, and they had come to a different epoch. So, but he said, "Don't fret. I know the solution to your problem, and I can say that if you return to earth now, you will see that Krishna ji has taken an avatar on earth, and therefore his younger brother Balarama is the suitable groom for Revati." So then Kakudmi and Revati returned. What they found was a dramatically changed world. It was a completely different yuga that they had entered, with much smaller, much weaker humans than they had encountered or were used to. They then found Balarama, and the marriage was arranged. But because Revati was from a much different age, she was much more. I think Srimad Bhagavatam talks about 9 feet, but she was significantly taller than Balarama. And then symbolically, Balarama had used his mighty plow to adjust her size, and then they would fit into that age, and then he got married. So this is the story of Kakudmi and Revati. What does it mean? If you just look at the story, first of all, they talk about 27 Chatur Yugas. So if you take 27 Chatur Yugas, like I said, 4.3 million years, so that equates to 116 million years, a million human years, or million Earth years. Then Kakudmi returns to find humanity in a completely new era. So the Dwapar Yuga transitioning to the Kali Yuga with the vast geological evolutionary changes that are implied in the story. So if you again look a little bit closely, one Brahma year is so many 300 trillion is the lifetime of Brahma. Where one Brahma year is 8.64 times 360 days of human years, and therefore one Brahma minute is 6 million human years or Earth years. So if you equate that, if you calculate the fact that Brahma's concert took 116.64 million years, that if you divide it by each minute being 6 million years, so the concert actually took in Brahma's time as 19 minutes and 26 seconds. So this is the dilated time, that concept that was used in this story. Now, there is an interesting similarity that we find that the current science has termed as the twin paradox. So the twin paradox was originally thought about as a thought experiment and around Einstein's time. And they talked about two twins, a girl and a boy here. So if you look at, say, the clock is at 2005, and the girl is on a spaceship. The man twin stays on Earth, and then the one twin leaves on a journey on the spaceship and with a almost a speed of light, uh, and eventually she slows and returns and heads for home. So if you look at the clock, it is essentially on Earth going from 2005, and she stopped around 2047. And then she returns home, and in 2065, she's actually back at Earth. However, she has not aged much, whereas the man twin, has aged significantly. So now it's almost 60 years, and that is, if you do what they came up with, a Lorentz factor, the time dilation factor, and this Lorentz factor is essentially the time dilation is 1 minus your velocity over the time of the speed of light velocity. And so for something that's traveling very close to the speed of light, the factor is equal to 7. So twin B's time slows down by a factor of 7. So even though she, on a human scale, has traveled for 60 years, she is only aged 8.5 years. So that is the whole concept of twin paradox, or the time dilation. So in the Kakudmi Revati story, which comes in the 9th canto of Bhagavad Puran, they reached Brahmaloka to meet Brahma, and they spent, as we saw, less than 20 minutes in the concert, and that they have been told that it's so many Chaudhary yugas have passed. So this kind of mirrors the same twin paradox, that you have the same time travel, where the Earth is the stationary frame and Brahma Loka is the traveling twin. So this predates Einstein by many thousand years. So now, when I explain that interstellar story, Uh, I think it is probably a good point to compare where the Kakudmi Revati story and Interstellar story, how are they in comparison? How are they similar? How are they different? So if you look at the journey, Cooper the astronaut travels through a wormhole into a distant galaxy. Okay. In our story, Kakudmi travels to Brahma Loka to seek Creator Brahma. So that is the journey. Then there was a brief wait. The crew spends a few hours on Miller's planet, the planet that they find uh, as an exoplanet or a habitable planet. Kakudmi waits for a short period while Brahma listens to music. And then that magnitude of delay on the Miller's planet, they take 1 hour equal to 7 years. In Brahmaloka, they take a few minutes equal to 27 Chaturyugas. Then the astronaut returns to Earth. He finds that his friends are dead. He finds that he's a man out of time, and his daughter is much older than him. Uh, in the Kakudmi story, Kakudmi returns to find the entire dynasty, ministers, and everybody is long gone and basically forgotten. So a completely different time frame that they return to, and the physical change humans have completely evolved in the Interstellar movie. They show that the world is basically unrecognizable to the astronaut. Now, in the Kakudmi story, they it's completely different yuga, and humans are in a different stature, intellect, size, everything, and so you would say if you look at it closely, there are amazing parallels. Uh, I mean, is it coincidence or is it something that was inspiration? Now, uh, the whole Kakudmi or the time dilation story is not a coincidence. If you look at Indian literature, Indian shastras, you find many such stories of dilation, time dilation. There are at least five, six stories that I could find that actually talk about time dilation. So this concept of time dilation was very clearly understood and known by the ancient Indians, and therefore. Was Interstellar inspired by this? Was the entire concept of time dilation brought about by, or thought about by Einstein, the twin paradox, inspired by the time dilation um, stories in Indian literature? I don't know, but there's clearly not a very not any kind of acknowledgement that the Western media or Western sources have referred to, but that's how it goes. Okay, the next story that I wanted to talk about was about the Surya or the sun and Sanjan. So one question for you is I have two things in here. One is a story which talks about the human drama of different things, and then there is what is basically dry data. So it talks about two stars, talks about the ascension declination, and gives a star map. What do you think? So 33G, what do you think is actually going to remain more in people's minds? The dry data or a story?
The story will remain better, sir.
Yes, so they talk about data rot happening if you have too much data, whereas a story is something that remains. So the actual story, Surya and Sanjana's story, is that I think it is repeated in a few different sources, but in Markandeya Purana, it talks about Surya being married to Sanjana. Sanjana is the daughter of the architect, the divine architect Vishwakarma. And Sanjana was again a very virtuous wife, but there was a slight problem. She had married somebody who had intense heat and used to blind her with his brilliance, and she could not withstand that, and therefore she had to find a cooler place. So she decided to leave, but she also did not want to disappoint Surya. She did not want to disappoint her husband. So she created a duplicate, supernatural double from her own shadow and called her Chaya, which is literally shadow. So she left Chaya in a place and went to a cooler place where the heat and brilliance of her husband would not blind her. Then, because she went to the cooler northern regions, it explicitly says that, and she took the form of a mare, a female horse, to actually hide. But Surya, he found out. He found that Chaya, even though looked very much like Sanjana, Chaya was not his wife. So he followed Sanjana, took on the form of a stallion and went to the cooler or the northern regions to find Sanjana. And then, because of their union, the birth of Ashwini Kumar, so the twin celestial physicians, they were born because of the union of the stallion and the mare. So this is the story. This is the story of Surya and Sanjana. And, like I said, this is from Markandeya Purana, but there are slightly different versions and different texts, different Shastras and Puranas. And that is another common theme in these stories, and that there are different versions that are related. Sometimes the same divine character has been used to express different things. For example, yeah, when you had Ganesha and his Ekadantaya. So how did he get his Ekadantaya? In one case, it's him getting angry at the moon and breaking off one tusk. In another, it is for him to write Mahabharata. He had to break his tusk to write what Veda said. So there are many such instances where different versions and different characters convey similar stories. But anyway, we're talking about Ashwini Kumar, the birth of the Ashwini Kumar and the Surya and Sanjana. So decoding that, what does it actually mean? So first of all, Sanjana actually represents a consciousness or a physical form that requires a level of solar energy to exist. So that is the significance or the depiction of Sanjana marrying Surya. Then her flight to cooler regions. What does that mean? That is an allegory for Dakshinayana, the sun's southern movement. So when he goes from the northern hemisphere, the sun is so when Sanjana goes to the cooler regions. That means that she is going to the northern side where the sun is not and less intense. So that basically depicts the journey of the sun, Dakshinayana and Uttarayana. So another thing is then it talks about the Ashwini Kumar being born. So what does that mean? That in our Shastra, there is Ashwini Nakshatra, which is the first lunar or the first nakshatra that you have. And their birth from the stallion and mare refers to the heliacal rising of the stars. So, what is the heliacal rising? We'll come to that. That is when they appear in the sky just before sunrise, and they are actually two stars of the Aries constellation. So the Ashwini Nakshatra are two stars of the Aries constellation. So this is heliacal rising because every star will rise and set at a different time every day, and that is because of the movement of the Earth, of course. And the stars do not rise and set at the same time as the sun. They have a different speed of motion, and the period of visibility of a star depends upon the position of the sun. So when the star rises just before or with the sun, that is known as a heliacal rising or the apparent morning rising. So that is the first day when the star is visible to the east in the light of dawn just before sunrise. So these are the two stars that we have that are representative of the Ashwini Kumars, which are present in the Aries constellation. So how does that help us also with something called archaeoastronomy, which we also talked about in our previous class about Dhruva and the dating of Thuban as the pole star. So in this case, first we talked about Surya and Sanjana being a depiction of this journey of the sun, Dakshina and Uttarayana, and the heliacal rising is essentially shown to be occurring. So, or the Ashwini nakshatra actually rose with the sun around 7,200 BC. That is an amazing time frame. So this timestamp essentially suggests that the memory of this Surya Sanjana Ashwini narrative dates back so many thousand years ago, 9,000 years ago. And it clearly one of the whole Western narrative is about the Aryan invasion theory and so on, and the much later writing of the Puranas and the Vedas and everything. So this clearly is just another instance. So there are many, many, many instances of disproving this whole Aryan invasion. But this is another of those instances. Okay, so can anyone tell me what and where this is?
This is Samudra Manthan at Bangkok Airport,
That is correct.
I suppose.
So the the Bangkok airport is also called the Suvarna
Varna
Bhumi.
Bhumi.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Swarnabhumi,
yeah,
yeah.
and they have
Yeah.
this depiction of the saga Samudra Manthan. So, Samudra Manthan is, you all probably know the story. The whole goal was to obtain Amrita, which granted immortality. So, Devas on one side, Asuras on the other. They agreed to churn the Kshira Sagar, the ocean of milk, and they used Mandara mountain and Vasuki, the snake as the churning rope, and the whole thing was supported uh, by the Kurma avatar at the bottom of the mountain. And this churning gave rise to many things coming out of the ocean, the Halhala poison that Shiva swallowed, Chandra, Lakshmi, and all the way to the final Dhanvantari carrying the Amrita. And then the Asuras tried to seize the Amrita, and then Vishnu transformed into Mohini, but an Asura named Rahu disguised himself as a Deva and drank some Amrita, and Surya and Chandra exposed him, and Vishnu as Mohini cut this Rahu, and the beheaded Rahu had his head, and Ketu became his tail. So uh, that is the story of Samudra Manthan. So different interpretations have been clear. Again, this is something that has been done by many scholars, many authors. They talked about the ocean of milk being a representation of the Milky Way galaxy, the Shira Saga. The mountain, actually the Earth's rotational axis. The Kurma is the Earth's stable core or the ecliptic plane. Vasuki as the rope is the equator, celestial equator, which is wrapped around the axis. Uh, the Devas at the tail and Asuras at the head, two opposite directions of precessional motion, counterclockwise, clockwise. The 1,000-year churning is 26 divine years. One precession cycle is is 26 divine years. There are 14 things that came out. Those are again in different interpretations. The 12 zodiac signs plus Rahu and Ketu. The Amrita pot is the source of cosmic energy or the galactic center, and the slow shift of the vernal equinox through the millennia is equated to the distribution of Amrita. Another thing about the whole Rahu and Ketu is when Amrita was being distributed, Rahu and Ketu became two different parts. So what they actually meant, and then that these Rahu and Ketus were actually descending and ascending modes, and this was explained later on even by yeah, the ancient Indian astronomers. Vedanga Jyotisha had a bit of it, and then of course Aryabhatta talked about it. And these are the intersecting points. and that is essentially that the sun or the moon is literally being swallowed by Rahu and Ketu. So this story, again in story form, talked about these eclipses and transmitted the knowledge, again without needing that complex trigonometry to actually determine where the ascending and descending modes happened. So we talked about a few different things here. We talked about the Suryas and Sanjana, Chaya. We talked about Ashwini Kumar, the heliacal rising. We talked about Samudra Mantana and the different representations of the axis of rotation, the constellations of Draco, again, the celestial marker, the Rahu and Ketu depicting the ascending and descending lunar nodes, the mathematical point where the orbits cross each other and lead to an eclipse. So what we saw in the last two lectures was very clearly that these stories they have been traditionally understood as entertaining stories with some moral lessons. However, as we've seen that these stories go much, much beyond that. And these stories are primarily act as mediums for this transfer of knowledge through generations, through millennia. And they encompass so much depth of scientific information in them. Now, it is very easy to dismiss these stories as either fantastical stories of superstitions, but if you know the encoded wisdom behind that, we have to basically find the key to unlock the knowledge that exists, the profundity of knowledge, the depth of knowledge that exists behind these stories. And what our role is that not only understanding and finding the key, but also passing it on to the next generation, passing it on to our peers, passing it on to the different people, to different media, different forums. So those are the stories. I had a few different questions in here. They are relatively easy, but they will allow you to go through the different stories, and you can put them together depending, get the answers together. So.
Sure, we'll send them across, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. And what I'll do is I will share the slides as well. I'll have to wait for Madhu to do that because he is the expert in handling all these recordings and the slide decks and so on. So I'll wait for him to come back, and he should be able to do it tomorrow or sometime later. But you will definitely get this, and what I wanted to convey, of course, also was the fact that we are not going to have a class next week. Next week is the 28th, and so we will meet again on
Fourth.
January 4th. Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. So
Okay.
yeah, if you had
Good, sir.
any questions, any comments, do let me know.
Thank you, Ajay, sir. I think these stories were really helpful to tell us how we had some things in our ancient history. It was very, very, very interesting, actually. Though we have heard the stories, we never have related them to these kind of things.
Good, good. Yeah, yeah, that is exactly, we need to understand what is behind it because, even looking at all the background and looking in doing my research, it's amazing how much that is, how much depth there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I had one clarification.
Sorry, Farnaji, I
Ajay,
think the audio went
yeah,
out for a bit. Please go ahead.
yeah. Can you hear now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay, okay. A small clarification. The Earth's wobble that we mentioned
Yes,
in the last two lectures, one was related to the 26,000 years, where the Polaris actually changes, or Dhruva Nakshatra changes itself. That's
yes,
one kind of wobble. Is it related to the wobble that you mentioned in this lecture in the very first slide, where the Uttarayan and Dakshinayan, the difference of whatever the I can't recall the exact
which one?
time scale.
Yeah,
The first slide. The first slide.
this one?
A little before. Uh, Maybe one before. Yeah, here, there. The 27, that the 24 days. I'm sorry, the 1,700 years. Uh,
Yes,
that
exactly.
that is due to the Earth's wobble.
Yes, exactly.
How
That
these
is
two are.
the whole procession. Yes, and that is, if you imagine a 23.5 degree tilt,
Yeah.
it is creating a circle as it's going
Mm,
around, and that
mm,
that circle is
mm.
taking 26,000 years to complete,
Right. Okay.
and
So
that.
these two phenomena are related to the wobble.
Yes, exactly. So,
Okay.
you will have a shift in the winter solstice, in the Sayana Uttarayana. In many thousand years from now, December will not be the winter solstice. You will actually
Mm,
have the winter solstice occurring even early, September,
mm,
or earlier than that after a few thousand years. So that
mm.
is changing as you due to precision.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for the clarification.
No problem.
Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Ajay ji. Happy New
Okay.
Year to you and to
Happy New
everyone on
Year
the
as well.
class. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.